Batteries. Button batteries. The small, flat, coin-shaped cells inside your TV remote, your bathroom scale. Your child's singing birthday card. They look inert. They look like something a baby would lose interest in. Within seconds. But the moment a lithium button battery lodges in a child's esophagus, it begins generating an electrical current against the moist tissue, creating sodium hydroxide, the same chemical found in industrial drain cleaner. This is not a slow process. Within 15 minutes, the tissue begins to burn. Within 2 hours, a button battery can erode completely through the esophageal wall. A 2012 study in pediatrics documented that button battery ingestions in children under 6 increased by nearly 7-fold between 1985 and 2010. With fatalities and severe outcomes rising in parallel, the esophagus of a baby is roughly the diameter of a pencil. A standard CR2032 battery, the most common type in household devices, is almost exactly the same width. It fits perfectly, and that perfect fit is what makes it lethal. The battery doesn't need to leak acid. It doesn't need to break open. It generates its own chemical reaction the moment it contacts tissue. Most parents don't realize that the battery compartment on a television remote is held shut by nothing more than a thin plastic tab. A musical greeting card has no battery compartment at all. The cell is right there, glued to a circuit board behind a single layer of paper. The National Capital Poison Center reports that more than 2,500 button battery ingestions are reported annually in the United States alone. And that number counts only the cases that reach a hospital. If you have a device with a coin battery in your home, it needs to be secured with tape or placed permanently out of reach. There is no safe amount of time for a button battery to remain inside a child's body. Water beads. Water beads, those tiny, colorful gel spheres marketed as sensory play material for toddlers, sometimes sold under the label Orbeez, or packaged inside craft kits and floral arrangements. In their dehydrated state, they're the size of a peppercorn. In water, they can expand to the size of a marble or larger, up to 1,500 times their original volume. That expansion doesn't stop when they reach the stomach. A single water bead swallowed by a baby continues absorbing fluid inside the intestinal tract, growing large enough to create a complete bowel obstruction. In 2022, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission issued an emergency alert after the death of a 10-month-old and at least 7,800 emergency room visits linked to water beads in children under 5. What makes this particular hazard insidious is that water beads are radiolucent. They do not appear on standard X-rays. A baby who swallowed one may present with vomiting, abdominal distension, and refusal to eat, and the standard imaging protocol will show nothing. Surgeons have reported discovering fully expanded gel beads during exploratory procedures. Only after every other diagnosis was ruled out, some beads were found to have expanded to the size of a golf ball inside the intestine, the same absorption mechanism that makes them dangerous when swallowed also applies to the ear canal and nasal passages. A water bead inserted into a toddler's ear will expand against the tympanic membrane, potentially causing hearing damage. There is no version of this product that is safe for children who still put objects in their mouths. The sensory experience they provide is not worth the diagnostic nightmare they create when something goes wrong. Screens. Screens. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 0 screen time for babies under 18 months. Not reduced screen time, not limited screen time, 0. That recommendation is not arbitrary. It is based on decades of developmental neuroscience, showing that the infant brain learns through 3-dimensional, reciprocal human interaction, not through 2-dimensional light patterns. A study published in JAMA Pediatrics in 2019 found that higher screen time in children between 2 and 5 years was associated with measurably lower scores on developmental screening tests, assessing communication, motor skills, and problem solving. But the damage begins earlier than most parents realize. The screen itself emits short wavelength blue light at an intensity that the human circadian system interprets as daylight. In an adult brain, this triggers a delay in melatonin release, the hormone that initiates sleep. In a baby's brain, the effect is amplified. Research from Harvard Medical School demonstrated that just 5 minutes of bright screen exposure in the evening can suppress melatonin production for hours in developing systems. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. It regulates the timing of growth hormone release, consolidates memory during REM cycles, and modulates immune function. When a parent hands a phone to a fussy baby at bedtime, even briefly, even with the brightness lowered, they are chemically postponing the onset of every restorative process that sleep is supposed to deliver. The content on the screen is almost irrelevant. It is the light itself that does the damage. A baby watching an educational program at 9 p.m. is not learning. They are losing the sleep architecture. Their brain needs to process everything they learned during the day. Noise. Background noise. The television playing in the next room. A podcast streaming while you fold laundry. Music filling the silence because silence feels uncomfortable. For adults, background noise is wallpaper. Present but filtered. A baby's auditory cortex cannot filter it. It processes every sound with equal urgency because it has not yet learned which sounds matter and which don't. That learning process, called auditory discrimination, is the foundation of language acquisition. A landmark study from the University of Wisconsin, published in Child Development, found that infants exposed to consistent background noise showed significant delays in the ability to distinguish speech sounds, which is the cognitive precursor to learning words. The mechanism is not about volume. It is about signal-to-noise ratio. When a parent speaks to a baby in a quiet room, the speech signal arrives at the auditory cortex with high contrast against the ambient silence. The brain can isolate phonemes, map them to mouth movements, and begin building the neural templates for language when the same words arrive against a background of television dialogue, music, or competing voices. The signal degrades. The baby hears sound but cannot parse it into meaningful units. Researchers at the National Institute on Deafness describe this as informational masking. The background noise doesn't damage hearing. It damages comprehension. A 2014 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that chronic noise exposure in early life also impaired executive function, the brain's ability to focus attention, hold information in working memory, and inhibit irrelevant responses. These are not subtle effects. They are measurable cognitive deficits that track forward into school performance. The simplest intervention is also the most counterintuitive for modern parents. Turn it off. Let the room be quiet. That silence is not emptiness. It is the acoustic space. Your baby's brain needs to learn how to hear. Bath toys. Rubber duckies, the universal symbol of bath time innocence. A bright yellow squeeze toy, bobbing in warm water while your baby splashes and laughs. Inside that toy is a biological environment that would concern a microbiologist. A 2018 study published in the journal Biofilms and Microbiomes by researchers at the Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Science and Technology cut open bath toys and found between 5 million and 75 million bacterial cells per square centimeter. On the interior surfaces, the species identified included Legionella and Pseudomonas aeruginosa, opportunistic pathogens that cause respiratory and wound infections. The mechanism is straightforward. Warm bath water enters the toy through the squeeze hole. The interior never fully dries. The combination of moisture, warmth, residual body oils, and soap creates a perfect biofilm environment. Every time a baby squeezes that toy, a jet of contaminated water shoots directly toward their face, mouth, and eyes. But bacteria are only half the problem. The plastic itself is a chemical delivery system. Most soft bath toys are made from PVC, polyvinyl chloride, which requires plasticizers to achieve its flexible texture. The most common plasticizers are phthalates, endocrine-disrupting compounds that leach from the plastic when exposed to warm water. Research published in Environmental Science and Technology found measurable phthalate concentrations in bath water after just 10 minutes of toy exposure. Phthalates interfere with hormonal signaling, specifically testosterone and thyroid hormone pathways, during the exact developmental window when those systems are being calibrated. The solution is not to clean the toys more thoroughly. Sealing the hole with hot glue eliminates the bacterial problem, but does nothing about the chemical leaching. The actual solution is to replace them with solid, non-PVC alternatives, or to accept that bath time does not require toys at all. Cords. Cords, curtain cords, blind pull strings, the charging cable draped over the nightstand, the baby monitor wire running down the wall behind the crib. Each one is a ligature, waiting for a hand that doesn't understand what it's holding. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission documented that nearly 17,000 children were treated in emergency rooms for cord-related injuries between 1996 and 2012, and that window cord entanglement was among the top 5 causes of accidental death in children under 5. A baby's neck is soft, small, and has almost no protective musculature. A cord does not need to be pulled tight to compress the carotid arteries, just the weight of the baby's own body slumping against a loosely draped cord is enough to cut off blood flow to the brain. Consciousness can be lost in 15 seconds. Irreversible brain damage begins within 3 minutes. The most dangerous object in many nurseries is the baby monitor cable. Parents install the monitor to keep the baby safe, and then run the power cord within arm's reach of the crib, not realizing that a baby who can pull to stand can grab, wrap, and entangle before the parent on the other end of the monitor even registers movement on the screen. The CPSC has issued multiple recalls and warnings, specifically about baby monitor strangulation. Cordless blinds are now standard in most building codes for new construction, but millions of homes still have legacy corded blinds, and the retrofit rate is low because the danger is invisible. Until it happens, every cord in a baby's environment needs to be either eliminated, shortened to an unreachable length, or secured flush against the wall with no slack. There is no cord that is too short to be dangerous, and no baby who is too young to reach one. Every object in this video is already in your home. None of them look dangerous. All of them are. The next video on screen breaks down the things in your baby's room that are silently destroying their sleep. And the fix for each one takes less than a minute.